All right, I'd like to call the City of Daytona Beach Board of Adjustment meeting to order of August 19, 2021. Ms. Groom, can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Fuller? Here. Mr. George?
Here.
Ms. Barhu?
Present.
Mr. Connors?
Here.
Mr. Gentle? Mr. Harshaw?
Present. We have a quorum. Very good. I'd like to introduce our city staff. We have Ben Gross, our Deputy City Attorney. We have Missy Phillips from our Planning Department, and Miss Becky Groom as our Board Secretary. Can I get a motion for an approval of the June 17th, 2021 minutes?
Motion to approve.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. We're going to hear new cases. Ms. Groom, may I get a reading for Case A, please?
ELA 2021-006, variances from Article 4, Section 42C. Request by David Betts, property owner, for a variance from Article 4 Development Standards, Section 42C of the Land Development Code, to reduce the required interior side yard setback from 7.5 feet to 1.5 feet. Reduce the required spacing from principal building from 5 feet to 2 feet, to allow for the enclosure of the approximately 319 square foot existing carport and breezeway. Property is located at 269 Lexington Drive. Zoning on the property is multifamily residential 12, and the future land use on the property is level 2 residential.
Thank you. Mr. Betts, would you please come up and state your name and address for a record, please?
My name is David Betts. My address is 269 Lexington Drive. Purchased the property April of last year
Okay.
in the hopes of staying there for the rest of my retirement years. Being a newly retired person from Columbus, Ohio, don't hold that against me, please. Just a little background. First of all, I want to offer my condolences to Officer Rayner's family, friends, colleagues in his police department, and colleagues here at City Hall. He did service our neighborhood. We appreciate his dedication. So with that, to begin my presentation, I'd like to enclose my carport. As you see in your packet, I do have another exhibit if I could hand out, please.
Yes, please.
That I've made today. Do I just give everybody a little background on myself. I'm a retired city planner, zoning administrator, and buying this property, figuring out I wanted to have more storage, I went to the city to ask about what to do, and so Missy here was nice to go over everything with me regarding the setbacks requirements, and I believe I have prepared an application that meets the requirements of granting a variance for this area setback. What I'd like to do is enclose the existing structure, adding whatever is necessary that the building department will require for structural soundness and a firewall, and I imagine on the west side of the structure that I build, basically putting up walls around the existing carport. This allows for additional storage and the ability to put a vehicle in if I would like to. I believe that the smallness of the lot in comparison to other lots in the neighborhood, there are some lots the same size with garages that are beyond what is the existing zoning setback. And all I'd like to do is, again, enclose the carport. I think the situation creates a practical difficulty in achieving a reasonable property owner expectation and a practical difficulty to provide a modern amenity afforded to other homes in the neighborhood due to the small lot design of the subdivision, placement of the home on the lot, and location of existing accessory structures. There's really no other option available to build a garage. The exhibit I handed out, which I'm marking as Exhibit A of my presentation, shows the outline of what setbacks are required on the property. And as you can see, the west side of the structure I'm enclosing, only that small portion, about 30%, is within the setback area. Also, if I would remove the carport and the sheds to build a new garage, there would be no place that would be physically possible to put a garage in without achieving a setback variance. And so I believe that this is the minimum type of variance to allow for me to do that structure that I'd like to do. I believe the variance is reasonable and is not going to affect negatively upon the adjoining property owners. I think it's in harmony with the general purpose and extent of the code and preserves its spirit. I believe that this also continues the gradual improvement of the neighborhood. I've been coming down to this area for 10 years in this neighborhood and staying at a friend's at this neighborhood for 10 years, found the house for sale and bought it. And gradually I've seen the neighborhood get better and better, which is one reason why I bought it, and people making improvements over those years. This is just going to be planned as another improvement to the neighborhood. I believe this also is compliant with the comprehensive plan in that allowing for further improvement of the historic Lexington Drive area and the Bella Road redevelopment area, which we're right next to, wants to preserve existing residential areas that are slated to remain and owners trying to make improvements over time. And I also believe that this variance will not give any special privilege to myself as the property owner due to the practical difficulty that exists. Thanks a lot. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. If I could, I'd like to read two, well, actually, we'll wait. Go ahead.
Oh, you can go ahead.
And
I just had a couple questions. The garage is going to be built on the same area where the carport is now?
Yes, I'm not extending it at all. Basically, there's structural posts. I will be adding other structural posts as required. Basically, it'll end up being much like a pole building with walls in between the posts, additional hurricane straps, anything the building department's going to want for that to be done, I will do. We talked with Missy and the building department about a possibility of a firewall along the west wall because of the closeness to the existing residents. I'm willing to do whatever is required to make that happen. There won't be any openings in this addition next to the adjoining property, so I can
And
make that happen.
As far as you're aware, the existing structure never had a garage in it that was like conformed from something?
No, as far as I know, it never did.
Okay.
It was built in 1926.
Okay.
The
Yeah, it
neighborhood
doesn't
was
look like it.
developed in 23.
Um,
I believe the sheds that are there, basically
Yeah.
been there since the 50s.
And just even driving around the neighborhood, it seemed like almost every property had like some sort of garage,
Yes,
a lot of times in the front, even.
right up to the property lines even on some. There are small lots that have achieved the ability to put garages in, either with the development of the existing house or with additional accessory structure.
That's all I have. I just want to say thank you for being so complete with your information and really like helping us understand and making an argument for why you need this.
Well, you're welcome. I'm kind of used to being in Missy
You could tell you were very prepared.
30 years.
you did mention something in the article. You're going to build it. What's it going to look like? I always like to kind of get an idea of what's going to look like. Your
Yeah.
home is like the Adobe style, correct?
Yeah, and I would. My house is an old Adobe style, Mediterranean style type house.
Yep.
The existing sheds are nothing but framed and plywood.
Yeah, I was out there on
And
the property.
this will actually make the appearance from the front better because I plan on, got to use metal siding on the side just because of the firewall issue, and that's not a problem. It'll be matching in color of the building, and then the front, I plan on having sliding doors to open up.
Okay,
There's a garage down at the end of Lexington that's the same way they open up, like, barn doors.
for the old style.
Yeah,
the
so
old doors.
it'll have an appearance, and I'll match it to, try to appear as if it was there for a long time from the front, so.
Flat roof, peak,
Yeah, it's had an angle roof right now over it, that's, steel roof, and there's two types of steel roofing. I'm gonna replace all the roofing with brand-new, up-to-date steel roofing.
it'll
make
be
it
a
watertight.
flat, it'll be a flat roof?
It's, angled towards the back.
Understood. Okay,
And
so you
then,
won't-
and empties out on my sheds, that empties out onto my backyard.
Okay.
And I have a yard drain in there that was put in by a previous owner
Okay,
that must run to, I don't know where it goes, but it does work, so.
Like a French drain.
everything. Yeah, like a French drain. There was a plumber that had my house before, so I met,
probably knew what he was doing.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, any other questions, thoughts on the board?
Mr. Betts, is the height going to be the same as the carport?
Height's the same. I'm not going up any further. I'm not putting any living area in there. I'm just
Okay.
closing the walls and putting a new metal roof.
Okay,
The way it is on this existing structure, I'll probably have to update the structure, we'll work out the building department on that and put a new metal on top, make it all watertight.
okay, thank you.
Ms. Phillips,
Sir?
I just want to verify, we're not going out any farther. We're not coming closer to the property line than we currently have? Even with walls and things of that nature, we're still staying within the existing
Correct.
scope
Yeah.
of what we currently have?
Within 2 feet of.
Good, I just
Yeah.
wanted to be sure. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm staying all within the existing confines of the
Okay,
roof that's there.
good. Mr. Connors?
Yes, does the driveway service as a front entrance for your neighbors as well?
No, that's just my driveway. The neighbors on the west of me have their own driveway.
Okay?
All right. Any other thoughts or questions from the board? Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Betts. We're going to take some audience here.
Okay, thank you very much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Before we do that, we had two people that, one of them left a voicemail. I'm going to read these into the record. This is an Ann Fuller. She lives at 221 Lexington. She left a voicemail at 3:11 PM on August 18th, 2021 concerning this case. Said she is in support of the variance at 269 Lexington. In addition, we had an email come in from a Loris Morton. She didn't have her address on here, but we looked it up real quick. She's 220 Lexington Drive, so she's a neighbor, and she too is in support of Mr. Betts' variance. Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to speak for or against this case? Yes, sir. If you would, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon. Al Lutens. I'm the owner of 255 Lexington, and also I'd like to tell you that I'm in support of the variance.
Good.
Okay,
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else in the audience to speak for or against? Yes, sir. Come on up. Name and address, please.
Name is Florentin Vassiliou, 284 Lexington Drive. I live across the street from David, and I'm in support of what he wants to do. The carport was there forever, and it cannot look worse than it. It will look much better now if you close it down.
Do a good thing, huh?
David, he doesn't like your carport. I don't know.
There's someone else.
Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please. Thank you.
So my name is Stacy Shea. I'm at 241 Lexington Drive, around the corner from Dave, and I am in support of what he's looking to.
Right,
Okay, nice. Thank you.
you too, right there.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Eric Wood. I live at 270 Lexington, right across the street from David. I am for his improvement. He's doing nothing but improving the property.
All right, good. Thank you. Anybody else? Name and address, please.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Don Kane. I live at 101 University Boulevard. I don't live in the Lexington area, but I have 5 pieces of property down there. It's a nice little neighborhood. There's about 25 houses down there. It's a nice little gem in the area. And I support Mr. Beck's request to improve his property.
All right,
So please approve it. Thank you.
thank you.
Popular. It's the most we've ever had.
Popular guy, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
The whole neighborhood.
Anybody else?
That's fine.
All right, very good. All right, I'd like to entertain a motion in this case, please.
I so move.
I second it. Go ahead.
Approve as presented. Ms. Baru, you're seconding?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Groom, can I get a
Hear
roll
with
call?
the mask. It's hard to hear with the mask.
Bowler,
Yes.
Mr. George,
Yes.
Ms. Barhu,
Yes.
Connors,
Yes.
Mr. Harshaw.
Yes. Mr. Betts, congratulations. Your motion's been approved. I have that already.
The one we.
Right. Ms. Groom, can I get a case reading of case B, please?
POA 2021-007, variances from Article 4, Section 42C. Request by Florence Filio, property owner, for a variance from Article 4, Section 42C of the Land Development Code to exceed the 200 square foot maximum floor area of an accessory structure, to increase the maximum height of the proposed structure from 20 feet to 22 feet, 5.5 inches, to allow maximum rear yard coverage in excess of 30%, to reduce the required rear lot line setback from 7.5 feet to 0.3 feet from the northwest corner of the proposed accessory structure, and 1.5 feet to the northeast corner of the proposed structure, to reduce the required side setback from 7.5 feet to 2.8 feet from the northwest corner of the proposed structure, 4.1 feet from the southwest corner of the proposed structure, to allow for an approximately 630 square foot accessory structure to replace the previous accessory structure boathouse located on the property. Property is located at 284 Lexington Drive. Zoning on the property is multifamily residential 12. It is in the Blue Road redevelopment zone. Future land use on the property is commercial mixed.
Thank you. All right. Florentine Vasilou. So come up and state your name and address for our record and talk to us about your hardship, please.
Okay.
Good afternoon, may I?
Yes.
For the record, my name is Jay Small. I'm a shareholder in the law firm of Mateer Harbert, Orlando, Florida. My business address is Suite 600, 225 East Robinson Street, Orlando, Florida. I was retained by Florentine approximately 3 months ago. Let me provide the board with a little bit of background. Mr. Vasilou had applied for a building permit in the last quarter of 2020. And a number of issues have arisen in the context of that building permit with relationship to zoning issues, setback, et cetera. When I was retained, I immediately met with Mr. Gross, Jim Morris. I may have met with Ms. Phillips, but I don't recall, and Kimberly Flaherty with permitting and licensing. And we came up with a plan, if you will, to address the zoning issues that were outstanding and were holding up the finalization of the building permit. In the interest of full disclosure, there is a pending code enforcement action, and we met with code enforcement last month. I think we have a meeting scheduled with them next month. Explain to them where we were in this process, that we were submitting these variance applications to bring the property into compliance to the greatest extent possible. And we will report back to code enforcement at the September meeting. So that's a little bit of the background. That's how we got to where we are and what the nature of this application is. It is our belief I apologize. It's our belief that the application that we've submitted is in compliance with the requirements for a variance, and that because of the shape of the property, the size of the property, its configuration and location, variances with respect to the items that are before the BZA are appropriate and should be permitted. This is a set of variance applications or variances which will permit the reconstruction of a building that was destroyed during Hurricane Irma. That structure is non-conforming, was non-conforming, and what the plans endeavor to do is to reestablish the existing structure to the greatest extent possible within the existing footprint of that non-conforming use. In the permitting application process, the building permitting application process, I can represent that there is no objection to the reconstruction or to the use so long as it is compliant with code provisions. In the building permit process, we identified a number of variances that needed to be requested, and that's what we're here for. The property is sort of unique, and in some respects, from my perspective, reviewing the code ordinance, a little bit of variance is somewhat fitting a square peg into a round hole, because if you look at the dimensional standards that are in the code ordinance, they don't really contemplate a boathouse. But so we've tried to address to the extent possible, with the assistance of staff, the particular application and zoning requests that are needed. We're not intending to increase improvements, size of the improvements. It's difficult because the existing building was destructured, or the pre-existing building was destroyed several years ago. So what we have done based on survey data is represented to BZA that it's about 630 feet based on the perimeter of the building, which is what the size was of the existing structure. The proposed structure is on the north side of an existing seawall, so there's not really a backyard behind that. The property is bounded on its west side by a roadway, so the only means of access is going to be from Lexington. From the standpoint of impacts to the community, this is not going to be a rental property. It's just going to be another accessory structure. There'll be obviously living space in it, but it's not going to be a rental property. So it's not going to increase the traffic. It's not going to be like a short-term rental or something like that. It's not going to be used for those purposes. Even if it did, it would require a license. My client has represented to me that he has no intention of, at this time, using the property for rental purposes. A literal application of code provisions would prohibit Mr. Vassilou from rebuilding the structure because it does not comply with the setback requirements for the rear yard, the side yard, or the height. Let me address the rear yard requirements and the side yard requirements. Because of the configuration of the prior non-conforming structure and where it was in relationship to the rear boundary of the property and to the Halifax River Bridge, the building is not exactly squared up. There's a little bit of an angle which is apparent from the surveys that are attached to the variance application. And for that reason, variance on the north side of the property's western boundary is narrower than on the south side. This is along the Halifax side. And there's also a certain gradation or variation in the width of the variance at the rear of the yard. So those are the minimum that we could obtain in terms of relocating the structure in the existing footprint of the pre-existing structure. Although it is not required under the variance application process, what we've done is so that BZA has an appreciation of what it is that Mr. Vaslou is trying to accomplish, we've attached some elevations of the building. They are for informational purposes, as BZA is aware that's not one of the things that is typically required of a variance application. And but we wanted you to understand what it is that it looks like. I serve on the City of Orlando's BZA, and the first question any BZA member has is, well, what is this going to look like? So we thought, in an overabundance of caution and the interest of disclosure, we wanted you to know what the proposed improvements would look like. From the standpoint of the issues in the case, this is not going to create any unique privilege to Mr. Vaslou, because but for the fact that Hurricane Irma destroyed it, we wouldn't have to be here in the first place. Under the provisions of the city's code for non-conforming uses, as BZA is aware, you can maintain ordinary maintenance. That's obviously impossible because the building was destroyed by Irma. So it would pose a unique undue hardship, in our opinion, if he's not allowed to restore, to the extent possible, the structure that was originally on the property. Specifically, and if my memory serves me correctly, it's section 8.1E of the city's code, which relates to maintaining structures and conducting normal maintenance and repair. Obviously, that's not possible because the pre-existing building is not there. I don't believe that there's going to be any adverse impact to health, safety, public welfare, or any adjacent property owner by the granting of the variance. As you know from the survey, building, the accessory structure is at the extreme northwest portion of the property in Halifax River. The buildings and businesses on the other side of the road are all consistent with the higher density usages. They're not going to be impacted by it. Across from Halifax River is, I think it's the Daytona Marina. So literally to the west of the property is a bridge, and to the north of the property is the Halifax Marina. One of the issues that was addressed in our pre-application meetings, we've had a couple with staff to, as I say, map out the strategy of bringing the property into compliance and then identifying the specific variances that are required. One of the issues that Mr. Morris brought to my attention, he showed me a right-of-way map. There was a question in the city's mind about whether any portion of improvements would encroach into Halifax, which is a city right-of-way. And that was not a position of Mr. Morris, but it was a question that we had. So we obtained a survey. That survey reflects that no portion of the property or the proposed encroachments are in, there's no property or proposed or encroachment into the existing right-of-way. So everything is confined within the boundaries of the property. Even if it was outside of the boundaries of the property, then we'd just be talking about a right-of-way utilization agreement, but we've avoided that issue by providing permitting and licensing with the survey. So one point I want to kind of bring to your attention is the way that we framed the application, and then there was a subsequent response for additional information. We kind of framed that, and this specifically relates to the 30% maximum rear yard coverage. Again, since this is a little bit of a square peg to a round hole, based on the way that the dimensional provisions are set forth in the city's code, we framed our response that to the extent applicable, the applicant was seeking a variance from the 30% maximum coverage requirement for an accessory structure. There's an existing accessory structure of approximately 367 feet. That's reflected in the site plan and the survey. Now, this is 630 feet. That would get you a total of about 997 square feet of accessory structure. And the rear yard is about 110 by 329 square feet, which would give you a total of 3,619 square feet. So if you divide the total accessory structure by the total square footage of the rear yard, it really comes out to about 27.6%. So I wanted to clarify that. That was apparent in the surveys, but once I went back and kind of looked again at the way the city's code was written, that was the best assessment of what we had in terms of the setback requirement. And there was a little bit of questioning in my mind, which is why I framed in the supplemental response, which was dated August 9th, that to the extent possible, that got picked up, obviously, in the letter that went out to the neighbors or to the residents within 150 feet of the subject property. The only other point, and again, this is sort of a design issue that we're going to have to deal with when we get to the building side, is I've got a letter from our architect who prepared the renderings, which was just submitted to staff and to BCA. His position is he'd like to have that, and he's shown some drawings with raised roof section, so that it architecturally and aesthetically would match the existing main building. And then for a number of structural reasons, there's 4 middle pilings with pilings that are situated on dry land. Those are construction-related issues because you don't want to have another catastrophic failure of another structure by building a new structure which is structurally unsound or not likely to withstand hurricane forces. And we've brought the contractor who's prepared and constructed the partial improvements there if you have any specific questions related to that. In the materials which I submitted to board secretary, have a number of different alternatives. Again, I don't think this is germane necessarily to the issuance of the variance, but I wanted you to have the background information in terms of what the end vision was like. So, subject to any questions that the members may have, I have nothing further at this point in time. Thank you, and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Ladies.
Thank you. Should we read in what Mr. Leet wrote into the record? Okay. This is from David C. Leet, registered architect to Daytona Beach City Commission, all members of Board of Adjustment. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my professional opinion that the raised middle section of the boathouse does not only improve the aesthetics of the building and match the main house architecture, but most importantly increases the strength of the new structure by allowing the installation of 4 new LVL beams, which ties together the middle 4 pilings in the water with the 2 pilings situated on dry land. I strongly recommend the approval of the raised middle section as is already professionally installed. It is my preference to include the 14 windows on the raised middle sections, since will drastically improve the aesthetics and will increase the height less than 2 feet. Attached, please find drawing A8 of the raised section without windows, drawing A8 of the raised section with 14 new 5-foot high windows, and then pictures of the main house for comparison. Sincerely, David C. Leet. Okay.
So are you requesting to raise the height higher than?
Now, that's going to have to be a design-related issue. This is a zoning issue. We have our application that's pending. There's different alternatives here with respect to windows. That's nothing that we're asking BZA to address. Just the height variance that we have in our application.
Okay, so no matter what changes, the height's going to stay the same?
It's going to have to stay
22, 5.5?
The variance application is the variance application.
Okay.
It's 2.5 feet. And, had we wanted 2.8 feet, the variance application, either pull it or ask for 2.8 feet. But
Okay.
the application is the 2.5 feet.
Okay.
Well, he just said if you put the windows in, it's 2 more additional feet.
That's going to be a design issue, and if all we have is 2.5 feet, then those windows, I don't think are going to be put in there.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure, the applicant doesn't want you to entertain any further variance for the height. And I'm not
Okay,
sure
good.
you could,
No.
I don't have the notices. when-
Yeah, the notice is
They
not
can always
proper.
come back for another variance if that's what turns out they need. during
Understood.
the decision.
Thank you.
I don't want to, I wanted to disclose this, my client asked me to disclose it, but I don't want to necessarily make this BZA panel's decision more complicated. And from my perspective, when I'm on BZA for the city, it's always nice to know what you're approving. There's certain due process issues that are associated with changing things midstream. So
Correct.
if we have to come back, we're going to have to come back.
Right.
But, we are standing on the application that we filed.
Okay, fair enough. If you, don't- if the board would allow me, I'd like Ms. Phillips to give us a little history on this property. I think when we have these types of situations, I think it's good for the board to hear exactly what's
Right,
going on.
absolutely.
Yeah, so if you would, Ms. Phillips, please.
Okay, so what I have, from my understanding, in 2017, there was a permit for the boathouse to be redone. I wasn't here at that time, so I'm not familiar with it. In October of 2020, code enforcement stopped them for building without a permit. Mr. Vasilou was under the impression he had a permit because there was one issued in 2017. However, that had expired in 2020, or by 2020, it was already expired. So Mr. Vasilou submitted a permit application for the reconstruction. He was then
Are you dead?
the button on it.
Yeah, you're good.
Good?
You're on.
I think you're on.
The button, on the base of the microphone, there's a button.
I
She's
think-
on.
Tap your
She's on.
microphone.
Yep,
Tap your
yeah.
microphone.
Does it work?
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah.
You're on.
Okay.
You're good.
I apologize.
My apologies.
Okay, so the permit that he submitted in 2020 was approved to reconstruct the boathouse exactly as it was originally in the exact footprint. And then later on, he was stopped by code enforcement for building further. He was attempting to put a second story onto the structure. And he submitted multiple different revisions, and they were denied because they were expanding and increasing the structure. And then there was eventually a stop work order put on it because Mr. Vasilou continued to construct, and now we're here.
And for the record, this is not a two-story structure.
Right.
It is not. And
One of his revisions
I-
was to do a two-story structure, though.
no, and I guess I can say what happened. What happened, but I think since I've been involved with it, I've tried to create a clear path forward
Yes.
of how we're going to do this and to narrow what the issues are. So
And if I can, it also isn't technically as now proposed a boathouse, which would have its own separate requirements in the Land Development Code. This is simply an accessory structure, which would be allowed subject to certain height and distance and total square footage limitations, which is what the subject of the variance is.
And which was clear in, from our perspective, the actual variance application and the supplemental response that we submitted to the city in response to requests for additional information.
So as I understand it, we were originally going to rebuild the boathouse, and now we're rebuilding an accessory structure. Yes? Because I have a picture of the boathouse in 2020, and that's what it looked like.
It was in a dilapidated
It's a boathouse.
condition.
It's a boathouse. Okay, and now we're, to me,
So, Mr. Chair, this is partly based on feedback and encouragement from Development Services staff. Sir, hold on. Sir, hold on just a minute. Technically, the authority to rebuild the boathouse was arguable because it was a non-conforming structure already. The Land Development Code doesn't allow boathouses to have sidewalls. So really, the more proper thing to do here would be to view this and treat this as a generic accessory structure, which could be used, for example, as storage, and not a boathouse.
fair enough.
But is it now in the same footprint?
Yes,
Okay, so that is now all correct.
that's right.
Okay. But just not in height. But the height is required because of the codes. It couldn't be built the same way it was before.
Well, I think the problem with the structure at its current height is, and I'm parroting what I understood to be the case based on a discussion between permitting staff and Mr. Small and his client, is that either because of water rise or what have you, they can't shore up the structure sufficiently unless they move the base up higher than what it was. And I think Mr. Small was alluding to that
Yeah.
when he read into the record the testimony of the architect.
By having these pilings, which raise the height, it helps secure the structure. So that's what the reason for doing that was.
In addition, the property is multifamily,
Correct, it's multifamily 12.
so someone could live in this.
With a license.
The original agreement was that it would be an accessory structure and the house would always be, he would always have it as a single family. He would not rent it as multiple units. That was the understanding originally.
But that's not in our that's not in our variance, though.
That is not. And the use would allow for multiple units on that lot.
But, Mr. Chair, I don't know if staff has examined what the requirements would be if this was intentionally put forth as a request to add another dwelling unit, what the separate requirements are in the Land Development Code for dimensions and square footage for what we call multifamily complexes, which can include 2 dwelling units on the same lot.
This was proposed as an accessory structure. It will have to be built according to Florida Building Code. However, with accessory structures per our code, they are not habitable units.
That's what I wanted to know. That was the answer. Okay, good. Thank you.
And Mr. Harshaw, I apologize. I thought that question was directed to me as opposed to staff, so I didn't mean to interrupt.
Don't worry about it. Not a problem.
I have,
Go ahead,
So-
Mr. Connor.
I'm a little confused. Is a boat going to be stored in this structure?
No.
Okay. So it's like a shed?
Accessory structure, correct, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, thoughts from the board?
I do want to point out a couple of other things, going back to, Mr. Chair, your question about a second dwelling unit. Whether or not this is used as a separate dwelling unit, it would have to comply with whatever provisions of the Land Development Code would still stand in their way. They're not before you today. And I do want to say that to the extent that you're concerned about this maybe if it were being built as a dwelling unit, being used as, say, an Airbnb,
That's exactly what I'm.
well, those aren't allowed in this district. They're only allowed in tourist districts. So outside of the tourist district, if you have a dwelling structure, it can only be used for residential occupancy by a family, the way our land development code defines that.
Guests can stay here, but no VRBOs.
If after the variance was granted and the building was built, this literally was a dwelling unit in compliance with our land development code provisions related to multifamily complexes, and if it was used as an Airbnb, they would be subject to code enforcement.
And Mr. Harshaw, to your point, and to Mr. Gross's point, we didn't submit every email that exchanged between my office and the staff, but that was a specific question that was raised by Ms. Flaherty, and I responded to her that this is not going to be a rental property. And I just wanted to put that out for the record. We had sort of anticipated that that question might be raised this proceeding. So we tried to be proactive and assure staff that that's not what the intent was.
Since you're standing in front of me, what is it going to be used for?
Accessory structure. I mean,
What does that
storage,
mean to me?
you know, could be used for looking out over the river, whatever specific menu of uses that Mr. Vasilou has for that, I don't know at this point in time, but I know that it is not his intent to use it as a rental property.
Okay,
Other question.
go ahead.
For staff, I think, from maybe Mr. Gross, regardless of what the structure is going to be used for, would the variances change the requirements, setbacks, whether it was a residential or an accessory house? Does that make any difference?
I don't actually know offhand what the setback and dimensional limitations would be for a second dwelling unit on this property.
Okay.
But whatever those are, if they're not being met here by a variance that's granted, then, they wouldn't be in compliance with those provisions. So
Okay.
if you needed a better answer to that, I think we'd have to get back to you unless Ms. Flaherty, who's in the audience, or Ms. Phillips knows the answer to that.
That is, again, I'm sorry, those requirements and what we mapped our variance application off of are found in section 4.2, which has a matrix of different setback requirements for accessory structures. And that's found in MR 12 at letter C. So those are what we specifically mapped our setback requirements are per the code.
Okay.
So while Mr. Small was reading that out to you, Ms. Phillips handed me a copy of the chart in section 4.2.
Perfect.
And there's multiple requirements specifically for dwelling units located in multifamily complexes. And I'm not able to do a point-by-point comparison between those specific setbacks and minimum and maximum size requirements and those for mere accessory structures that are found elsewhere in the code. All I can tell you is if they're not asking for variances from those, they're not getting those pursuant to this application.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if the variance that we're going to authorize is boxed with the concept, I'll just use the word shed, another building, but not inhabitable building. So that's the variance they're asking for, and that's the variance we will or will not approve. Is my understanding correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the boathouse to accessory is kind of throwing me off because the way this read was that there was a boathouse there. He didn't go get it. It blew away. He didn't go get a new permit. Now we got the permit, but we're going to put everything back the way it was. And so, but you're saying development encouraged kind of that change. So this would be allowed to get built had there never been a boathouse there, besides these variances.
You're allowed to have accessory
Okay,
structures
you
on
would
a
be able to
single-family
build
dwelling unit.
over like it is. Like I've been seeing, I drive by it there and I see this getting built and I'm like, what is this thing? So this would be allowed there, other than these couple variance things, this type, it has really nothing to do with the boathouse anymore, and trying to put it back in the same footprint.
Really, the only reference to boathouse is just a historical reference.
Okay.
It was originally constructed as a boathouse. It couldn't be constructed today as a boathouse, including in its original configuration, that shows a very low height because the Land Development Code does not allow boathouses to be enclosed structures. You basically can have a roof with, poles and open
Pole barn
sides.
look. Yeah, pole barn look. Yep.
But
Right.
the accessory structure could be substantially put where and the way it is.
But only with these setbacks
Right.
waived and
With
height
all this,
limitations.
what we're asking, but had the boathouse never been there, we could be standing in the exact same spot. Like, we're really not standing on the leg of the boathouse, is what I'm asking.
Not really.
Yes, we're not.
Okay. Okay.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for, I mean, you answered like all my questions. You were a smart hire, I think, because you really went through everything and answered all of these questions I had.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, if we have nothing else from the board, do I have anybody in the audience to speak for or against this case, please? I think I've seen you before. Again, name and address.
Familiar.
David Betts, 269 Lexington Drive. I've been over and looked at the applicant's project, went over the designs, seen it. I prefer actually the windows, but not subject to the application. That would bring the design back to the house and everything that you're trying to accomplish. And, but do support the continuation and finishing of his project. There's an application, so, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. I do. Name and address, please.
Eric Wood, 270 Lexington Drive. I live next door. The old boathouse was like it was falling in the river.
It looks like it,
It was
yep.
a safety thing. What he's built is a very nice, product. It's built very well. I was in the construction business myself, and I think he's improving the property. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Name and address again, please.
Hi again, Al Lutens, 55 Lexington. I purchased the property in October. The neighborhood, the reason why I did it is because I looked at the possibilities. It had a lot of history in there. There had a lot of issues, and there's a lot of positive with the people that live there presently. The structure that I first saw when I went checking the area out looked like a dilapidated barn, boathouse, whatever you call it, structure, shred. Since I've been in the neighborhood, I've seen what has been done during that time frame, and obviously, it's a vast improvement. I mean, we still have some things going on in that area, past problems, which I'm sure will be brought to the attention later on, but I think this is a great step forward in the community. So I'm
How do you,
supportive of it.
how do you feel about the height?
Very interesting. I'm a supportive of within regulations, okay? I've taken my canoe back in that area back there to look at it. I've heard about past other development where they're gonna change the road, get rid of the road, and they're gonna put a structure in the back. They're all hearsay. But again, that height's not affecting me. Of course, I'm at the other end of the canal. He's the back part, I'm the corner part, the corner part that you had.
Yeah, the one thing that I noticed was he has the advantage that he sits on Baloo, so there's really no adjacent structure to the west of him, which might complain about their view down the river, down that creek or whatever you got there.
As far as down the entrance, as far as coming in, there's not an effect as far as from me. I'm at the tip. I'm at the tip. Okay, so you get that when you come in that area, and then he's just obviously the last structure on the road right there.
Correct.
It stands out when you walk by there. You can't miss it. That's the first thing I saw when I looked in the area, and I'm going, oh, what is this? And I saw that there was there were signs up as far as an old place and then ordinance and all that. But obviously, and again, I've not even talked to them. This is the first time they're seeing me as far as doing this. I have no, I'm just a neighbor looking at wanting that whole block and that whole area really to be a very special area. And I think that this board knows it has some issues in the area. And I think that the people that are in there and some of the people that are here now kind of want that to be better. Obviously, it does better for the community, tax purposes, and all that. So,
Good.
but that height does not bother me.
Okay, good for your input. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your
I
time.
appreciate it. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Mr. Chairman and board members, my name is Don Kane. I live at 101 University Boulevard, but I'm an owner of 5 properties down in that area. It's a very unique area, and what Mr. Vasilou proposes is a vast improvement, so I'm 100% in favor of it, including the windows. The windows will just add more charm to it, but he's replacing a 100-year-old boathouse that was really obscene looking. So his proposal is very positive, for that neighborhood. So I'm 100% in favor of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good person. Name and address, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Dean Maxwell, 720 Palm Circle in Port Orange.
Oh.
I represent the contractor that's doing the structure. One of the things while I'm sitting here, there seems to be a question between boathouse and auxiliary structure. When I got involved with the project, it actually was an auxiliary structure because there was a floor in it. There was no way to store boats in it or anything like that. So as far as I knew, we were just building an auxiliary structure from the beginning. All right, I don't know if that helps to clear this up or not. As far as the height of the building, Mr. Florentine and his architect has been doing the design from the beginning. We've just been working for him. And we've designed it and built it with the idea of that building never coming down during a hurricane. The pilings, we went with 14-inch pilings versus a lot smaller pilings that a lot of other people would have used. We've got 20 foot of penetration. We actually drilled through 11 foot of coquina rock to get the 20 foot of penetration. The center portion of the building that's in question, the pilings that are higher than the original structure design, it was an advantage, like the architect said, to leave those pilings up because it ties the whole structure into sort of a monolithic structure, which will keep it from moving and bending during a hurricane. It'll allow a little bit of movement, but because of the LVL beams and the laminated 2x12s and everything that we put in there, it was all fit into making sure that this structure stays secure during a hurricane or any kind of disaster like that, along with the raising of it from the original height that the original structure was. So if that helps at all, as far as the neighborhood and everything else, I'm not from the town. I think the building is great looking, but I can promise you that it's structurally sound and safe, and the design is far beyond the structures, the requirements from the building department.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, sir. Gentleman in the yellow shirt. Name and address, please.
Randy Keeper, 274 Lexington. I'm his neighbor there. But I think it's a great deal. I just purchased a property next door, and I'm happy he's doing what he's doing.
You're to the east of him?
East.
Yes. Okay, so you're directly east of this particular property. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. Thank you. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Elon Schlockett, 600 Blue Road.
Okay.
So I am just west of him.
You're west of him?
Yep.
You're on the other side of Blue Road?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So we fully support the variance approval if approved. We praise people like Florentine to keep improving the area. We've been there for 20 years. So we've seen where it's been and how far it's come. So Blue Road, we have 4 different businesses there. I work with customers every day. We walk by the structure there, and every customer from all over Volusia County are just wow, what's going there?
Yeah, that's what everybody
So,
says.
I mean, it's a great improvement for the area, so I'm all for it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good.
I just want to say for the record that I was happy to hear that this, because from the application, it looked like it was, we just started building something, and there was no attempt at getting a building permit. But I hope that Missy's comments make it into the minutes, because to me, it makes all the difference that, there was some sort of a permit. We thought we were still under a permit, and it wasn't just a situation where we started building, and we ignored, the process that everybody has to go through. So I was happy to hear that, and it makes a difference to me. And
It also makes a difference to me that when we have neighbors that come up and support
Right.
something
Correct.
or don't support something. I mean, because our job is very difficult when it comes to, are we going to allow somebody to go outside blur the lines, if you will? And so it's nice when we get a group that comes in and is really supportive of something like this, so.
did you have some?
All right. Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Stacy J. 241 Lexington. I've got kind of a twist on this.
Okay.
One, I'm obsessed and love your building. I bought my property on Lexington in 2002. I also loved the dilapidated boathouse. I'm a boat girl. I love it. I love the way the boathouse looked before, but I understand that you had to fix it. And, after the hurricanes and stuff. My concern, and I think the gentleman before me explained that to me, is I live on the Halifax River. Their property is on the canal between Kirby and Jackson. And my only concern is that somehow a boathouse that's next to me could be considered an accessory, that they could enclose it and they could make it, but I think now I understand more that there was a flooring to it. So thank you for helping me with that.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want, and selfishly, I wouldn't want that beautiful structure that he's building on the property next to me, because it's, but where you're located, he's right on Baloo Road, and like I said, I'm completely fascinated with it. And I walk by it every day, and so if the gentleman that, has his business across the way isn't concerned with it, and his neighbors on the west side, because it doesn't obstruct me necessarily, I just wouldn't, from what I understand how variances work, it doesn't set a precedence for what could be done.
Correct.
On, but anything to make, but I still did love that old boathouse. I thought it was great. I loved it.
Let's go home.
But anything, so I'm in support of whatever.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. We have no one else? Can I get a motion in case B, please?
Make a motion to approve the proposal as submitted.
Second.
Ms. Groom, roll call, please.
Ms. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Ms. Farhu?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Harsh?
Yes. Congratulations, you are approved. All right. Getting through some paper. We'll let them clear out for a second.
Take care.
I think we're ready for a reading of case C, please.
BOA 2021-008, variance from Article 4, Section 42B. The request by Ann Hendricks, property owner, for a variance from Article 4, Section 42B of Land Development Code to reduce the required interior side yard setback 10 feet, 5 feet to allow the construction of a 600 square foot attached garage. Property is located at 6 Elizabeth Lane. Zoning on the property is single-family residential 5, and the future land use on the property is level 1 residential.
Thank you very much. I don't believe Ms. Hendricks is going to speak. I believe Pete Zahn is going to speak. Is that correct? Mr. Zahn, would you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Pete Zahn, Zahn Engineering, 150 South Palmetto, Suite 201, Daytona Beach, right down the street.
Yep, thank you.
Um,
Talk to us.
Okay, I will. The way this came about, initially, Mrs. Hendricks said wanted to build a garage. One of the reasons is because she doesn't have enough room really to maneuver the way the driveway is right now. This house was built, I think, in the 40s, early 40s. She loves it. It's very eclectic. Has brick pavers. No garage. There's an area that was a deck built above. It's not really big enough. She can get her car under there, but her husband can't get his F-150 under there. So they wanted to build a garage. She thought that the side yard setback was 10 feet. She called the city. She said, whoever was here isn't here any longer. So we do permit drawings, plans. So we sent our architectural guy out there to take a look and see what the terrain was like and so on. When we checked it out, we found it was a 5-foot side yard setback. And so that just tell you how long we've been doing it. We started this back in December, November, December last year. So we kind of put a hold on things while we determined what might be done there. So eventually I told her, I said, the only way that you can really accomplish what you want to do with this garage is to go for a variance and see if you can get a 5-foot setback there. I had a kind of a pre-app over the phone with Missy and said, you've got an awful lot of property there that might not be viewed well, but there's a lot of restrictions on where this thing would actually work. We have a survey that's included in the package, which shows the potential garage located on it. I guess you've got it in your package. Essentially, we're talking about right here. There's a couple of circumstances. Number one, there's a street, and I don't know if I think it's a platted right-of-way that runs right in front of the house that is Elizabeth Lane, and it extends to the house just north of them. The elevation in that street's 13.4. The elevation at her gate is 12. The elevation of the ground back where the front of the garage would be, which is the western side of what is now a paved driveway area, is 10.3. And when you go 30 feet beyond where the garage would be, it's 9.2. So it drops off 4.5 feet from street to back of where the garage would be. If you go just a little bit south of that, which that's why this 5 feet makes a difference to us, you've got an elevation there that's 4.8. So it really drops off significantly there. It's a grading foundation issue. There's, she had a new installation system put in, thinking she had a 5-foot setback. I've included a picture, I think, in the package, but all you can see is a bunch of bushes and maybe a little white pipe in there. But that's where all the controls come up. So it's $5,000 worth of irrigation and controls that sits inside where this footprint would be if it were, if the variance wasn't granted. In addition, you can clearly see a brick walkway that is brand new that was put there as well. So those are two issues that she thought were not issues that now have become, well, it's a financial hardship for her because she's put some money into it that would be wasted. There's no financial hardship on the variance because she hasn't built it yet. Oh yeah, there was it's a special situation here because she's a doctor and the next door neighbor on the north is a doctor, and The neighbor to the north is trauma, emergency, come and go in all hours. So what Ann tells me is when she's pulling out, the neighbor's pulling out, and they really got to keep an eye on each other to make sure, and she didn't have a place to turn around, so primarily she wanted this space so that she can maneuver her car and be able to pull out straight. Plus, they don't have a garage, so I think she's got a Maserati or something like that, and that weather over on the beach side isn't good for, you know, having a car sitting out in the driveway. So there's another reason for a garage. So it's, those are primarily all the circumstances that I can bring to mind that are unique. Primarily, the worst is the elevation difference between the existing grades out at Elizabeth Lane and what she's got to work with her existing driveway. She's already widened it a few feet because the way it was built back in 42 or whatever, it just makes it very difficult for her to get in and out at that point. So at that point, I'd like to answer any questions you might have.
I'm familiar with your work. You have excellent taste. Is there anywhere else on this property that you would even consider remotely?
Well, if you look at the survey, there is no place for it on the south side of the property because that's where the house sits.
Yep.
It's really close to the side yard. If you tried to put it behind the house, there's 3 18-inch oaks. If you tried to move it, well, if you moved it further west, it wouldn't make any difference. You still have the same setback issue. But there are 4 trees there. There's a little shed that would come out. And then probably the biggest issue would be the land drops off significantly at that point because it drops down as waterfront property or riverfront. So it's going down to property 3 and 4. So the grades would be, I love working with grades, but this would be real difficult to fit it in there. So I would say probably that is by far the best location because it's adjacent to where all the turning movements, the parking, bringing her car in and out are right now.
Okay. I just wanted your professional opinion because I'm very familiar with your work and your excellent taste.
Thank you.
And I know you would work it in here if you could. I know you. So.
Well, you do a lot after the fact permits, and it's a lot easier to come in before the fact.
Yes, it is.
So you gave us some measure, the grade slope from the roadway to the back of the proposed garage there. If you kept the side of the garage at the 10-foot variance there, what's the drop from the beginning of the garage to the end of the proposed garage?
It's approximately the same, but if you look at the southwest corner of the garage, you've got a 4.8 grade point just off the corner of that garage. So instead of working with an elevation of about probably, ideally it'd be about 10 because then it would match grade coming in off of the existing paving. But let's say we dropped it down a little. If it were 9.5, you're going to 4.5. So you've got a 5-foot drop between where the southwest corner of that garage is as proposed versus if it was another 5 feet off, because we're asking for a 5-foot variance, so that would push that garage 5 foot farther to the south. So that would mean going from a grade of about, let's see, it's 9.2 where the garage is going to be, and if you come off to that corner, it drops to 4.8. And there's some pictures in there that show it too. There's banana trees, a bunch of growth where all that just drops off dramatically. Were you asking a question?
If this one's done, yeah. Thank you. So, Mr. Zahn, I agree, like, you are very respected in the community, and I would highly, hold your opinion in high regard. However, this one is a hard one for me because, everything you said, those situations seem like they were created by the homeowner. And also, there wasn't a very strong argument made, in her application where she has the chance to, make her case. So can you tell us a little bit more about, like, the oak tree, or is there trees there? Like, is there something else there that wasn't created by her, the walkway and some of the electrical things? But are there some trees there that, shouldn't be removed? Is there something?
The things that she has not created was that the house was existing and the paving was existing as she bought it. So those grades were there. That's not self-imposed. The lay of the land was there. She hasn't done anything there. The trees, the 18-inch, that has more. There's a twin 18-inch right at the west boundary of the garage. And probably the greatest hardship is just the 5-foot grade drop right there, and having to come in and try to make that. I mean, you throw enough money at anything, I can design it for you. But right there, that's a really difficult situation. It's going to take a 6-foot stem wall to bring it up along that south side to allow the garage finished floor elevation to be at something reasonable to what's existing. If the whole deal were pushed off, let's say south and west, then you've got a severe grade drop between coming in through the front gate, through the existing pavered area that is parking. You can see Brick Drive, it's shown Brick Drive there, and there's an outline of that. And those are the grades that are 10.7, 11.2, 10.3. The houses at 9.8, 9.4. And then there's a picture in the package that shows a brick sidewalk coming down. Now, granted, that was created by her. But when we had a discussion about it, she said she had called the city to see about the setback. And how you get that information, I don't know. I mean, I found that I just email Missy, and then we get the correct info. So she thought she had room in there to construct those things. That's ignorance is no excuse. So, so be it. But you asked about moving it, and you could move it. It's going to have a real impact on what that area would look like when it's finished. Like I said, you throw enough money at anything, I can design it.
So
It's a severe drop in grade right there. That's the primary.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
All of the discussion has been focused on a detached garage, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Why does it have to be detached? I mean, quite
Well, that's a
frankly, looking
question
at,
I have to ask Mrs.
because if you look at the drawings and you look at the
I
elevation.
know the reason for that.
Okay.
The reason is because of the turning radius and what you have going on with that driveway. When she pulls in, she backs out. And because there's not enough room, if you pull into the garage, you pull in going west, you have enough room for a turning radius to back up towards the house and then pull straight out. So if she put the garage there, she hadn't changed anything as far as her turning movements go.
Depends upon where you enter the garage and how you back it out.
So you couldn't, are you asking, like, could you put just the garage where it says Brick Drive? Is that not possible? Is that what you're?
Well, I'm not the engineer.
Right,
to
right.
it,
But I have
But
the
I'm
same
just
question.
asking, why can't, it looks to me, from my
Me too.
perspective, if you move the garage, you can't move the garage as a block anywhere that it's not going to create more challenges. I just ask if you move the garage to be attached to the garage and consider, I'm sure it's more costly, but you consider that, then I'm still perplexed about the turning radius, but I thought if you pulled in, you can create more of a, even if you went down in the slope, you can create more of a paved driveway or whatever you want to do to turn it out and then come back out. That's just what I was looking
I
at.
can show you real quick.
Thank you.
Pete, you got to be able to talk into the mic so everybody knows what information you're giving.
Yeah. Rip it off and take it with, no, just kidding.
Well, let's see. If you look at the survey and you look at where the location of the garage, proposed garage is,
Hey, Pete, I'm sorry, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Can you come over here just for a minute, and I'm going to announce something to the board? Are you talking about this document here?
Page 2?
Yes. Okay, so for the board members, Mr. Zahn is pointing to the sketch that's on the top of page 2 of the staff report. That's the survey, right, Mr. Zahn?
Right, and there's an expanded view on the bottom side, so you can actually read it. So the garage, you can see where it says Brick Drive. You can see a hatched area. That is adjacent to the two-story masonry residence. That is a deck, a wood deck. It's only got probably 7.5 foot clearance between the elevation of the brick drive and driving underneath that wood deck, which is the hatched area. So when you pull in, you're coming in, and let's say you came in the driveway where the gate is, and you took an immediate left. She doesn't have enough room with her husband's F-150 parked in there to make a backup and then pull out straight forward. If you have the, I can talk to the mic and still hold this up, can I?
You can.
Ben?
Yeah.
Okay. So right here is the garage. What she would do is she's pulling into the garage, then she can back up here and pull out. So she pulls straight into the garage. If you've got a garage in here, there isn't enough room to actually come in your driveway and then make a left turn directly right into the garage. So if you put the garage right over the pavers, you either pull straight in and back straight out, or if the garage were up against the house, and I'm not sure there's enough, typical parking space is 10 by 20, so the smallest garage you're going to get is 20 by 20, 20 by 30. So by the time you extend that out, it's so close to the north property line, there isn't enough room to get in to the garage. Did I make that clear? I'm used to talking with my hands in pictures.
Yeah, I'm following you, but I'm following it. That's okay.
Mr. Zahn, this is a 600 square foot garage, correct? 20 by 30.
It's 20 by 30, and I don't know necessarily that that's an issue. I think it's the setback issue, because I looked at an old email, and it was 33 by 20. So I'd say the width of the garage is much more important than the depth of a garage is.
Well, that was the point that I'm making, because I think probably the argument we're going to hear is that it encroaches farther down, closer to the water and views and things of that nature. And I was wondering, are we going too deep? Could we go shallower? Still 20 feet, I get the setback part. Could we go 20 by 25 or something where it's closer to the house from a standpoint of river views and things of that nature? Don't get me wrong, I know,
Well, pretty much-
how big an F-150 is, but that's a
Yeah, I
pretty
mean,
good
they're
size,
big,
that's a good
but-
sized garage.
That's
A 600 square foot garage is a pretty good
I
sized
know, we got
garage.
to work on trying to get dumpster pads to work on site plans, with F-150s on them, that kind of.
Yeah. Just a thought, as I was.
The only thing that might be a possibility would if we shifted the garage a little bit further to the east. But if you look at, on the survey, there's a shed right behind there that would come out, and then only probably 3 to 4 feet is a 22-inch and an 18-inch oak. And if you look at the pictures in there, there isn't a view, because it's so. Okay, this little picture here, I'm not sure which it is in your package, but that's standing on the pavers, looking out towards the west, towards the river. It's so heavily vegetated in there, you don't have a view now anyway. These two trees right here are the two big oak trees that are on the survey.
Referring to. In addition, on the survey that you drew, what is the line thing on the side? What is that?
The line,
The little-
that was a setback. I drew a 10-foot, this little
Oh,
dash-looking
okay.
line.
Yeah, the little dashes.
Well, what I
I was
did-
like, is that a set of stairs going to the top of the garage? That's not stairs.
Yeah, there was a loft above, so you had to get up to the loft, so there's putting stairs there.
So the height of this garage is how tall?
Pardon me?
How tall is the proposed garage?
Well, we stopped working on the plans, but typical height, interior residential is 8 feet. A garage would probably 10.
Right.
And then if there's going to be a deck or loft on top, that'd be, a walkway around it, whatever. We really never got that far because once we ran into the variance issue, figured we have to come here.
So we wanted a viewing area from the top of the garage. Was that the proposal? That was the thought?
Some kind of use. I think what she said is, or she does painting.
Sit up there with our easel and things. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, please.
just make sure you,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, thank you.
I was getting leaned back here. All right. Okay.
We just don't have a whole lot of places to put it, and that's where she had picked, and she thought she had a 5-foot setback, turned out not to be so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else from the board? You have
No,
something to
I
say?
just think, I just anticipate there's going to be some comments from the residents, so, it makes this one more challenging.
It does.
But we're really only dealing with the 5 feet there on that north property line. Other than that, it would be allowed to be, that far to the west,
That's
right?
correct.
There is, your aerial probably shows it, but on the north property line, if I remember, there's a driveway right there. So there's already whatever driveway is, 14 feet minimum usually. It's adjacent to where this garage is.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We'll hear from the audience now. Who is here to speak for or against? Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
My name's Tom Baldwin. I'm the resident at 7 Elizabeth. That is the property with the right-of-way that he was speaking of.
Mr. Baldwin, is your property directly to the north of this
To the
one?
north?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
that's what I wanted.
And you can see that the street comes down, there's actually a cul-de-sac here, and then that right-of-way goes to here. The way my house is oriented, from the street view, and I'll hand you these in a minute. This is standing in the street. My front door is here facing his house. His front door is here facing the street. So we're both, we're facing 90 degrees from each other, but we're both facing the street because of this oddball right away. My property is kind of pushed back. So the proposed location for this garage is directly outside my front door in my master bedroom. Right here, front doors. And you can see in this picture, just gives you scope, there's 2 of those big Chevy 2500 pickup trucks on the pavered area. Looks like they got in and out of there pretty easily. And then this is a picture where she's currently parking her Maserati under that deck. I'll just share these. I want to start out though by, saying that I like my neighbors. Seth and I are
Thank you.
good friends.
Thank you.
I'm not, this is not personal at all. That this setback would influence the character of the neighborhood, my property, my privacy, my breathing room, and potentially the value or desirability of the lot. And I think in general that variances, exceptions should only be made in the cases of hardship. It's $1 million property on the riverfront with a half an acre of land. I'm not against them building anything they want. I just think they should keep it within the setback. And I don't believe that this variance is their only option. Again, how does this affect me directly? This is the view from my property. This podocarpus and bird of paradise and these plants will all be gone when that's there. And the garage would be immediately opposite this fence. This is the view from my house. There's his truck, in front of his truck there.
If if you'd hand that to Ms. Groom, please.
So if the setback is set at 5 feet, as I understand it, the wall would be 5 feet from the fence, 5 feet. And then you'd have a 1 foot, 18-inch overhang for the roof. So then the soffit would be approximately 3 feet from my fence. And as he said, my property's elevated above his. So what I'm going to see from my front door is that roof right out there on the fence. He mentioned there's no garage. There was a garage when she bought the home. The garage has been converted to another bedroom and bathroom, I believe. He mentioned that moving the garage would affect the appearance of that property. Moving it into the setback will affect the appearance of my property. And yeah, the PVC pipes and irrigation, that was done. That was done by them. And it, sounds like most of the concerns are engineering or building challenges, not hardships. And then lastly, I took some pictures, one looking west and one looking north, so you can see where the trees are and where this location is. And he mentioned that the grade to move this thing the 5 feet back into their property, off the property line, would cause a 5 foot drop in elevation. And you just don't see that in these photos. It's not that extreme. So I've numbered the trees so you can see, get a reference from both angles. So looking north would be towards my property and west would be towards the river. Also, two of the neighbors, Todd Angel and Dr. Mark Palazzolo, got notice of this, but we're not able to attend.
We're gonna read theirs into.
They sent emails as well.
We're gonna read those in.
Objecting to this. And those are the only trees that are in the general area, so you get a real good feel for where those are. In fact, if she were to do an attached garage, modify that existing carport, put in a 1.5 car garage, storage area, and I didn't know anything about it, the plans to make it 2 stories with a loft and a viewing deck or anything else. So.
Did you mention in your letter something about that you had a tree on your property that could affect the roots?
I have a very large oak tree. It's got to be, I don't know, you couldn't get your arms around it. Right there outside the front door. So anything that they move closer to me is closer to that tree. The tree is probably, 5 or 8 feet from the fence. So if they move, there'd be 10 feet from that tree. I'm sure the roots go that far because it's a monster. You can see it.
How far do the branches extend off that tree into the
Oh.
property?
Do you have the satellite photo? You can see it. There's one I wrote on my front door, and tree on lot 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge tree. That's my
Yeah,
side.
usually with oak trees, they talk about the roots are as wide as the.
Oh, it's. So again, I think just my personal opinion, without being an engineer, is that there's building challenges. It's an old existing property. They knew what they were buying when they bought the home, and there's certainly ways to work around this without encroaching on the setbacks and the way it's going to appear from my house. And of course, the other neighbors as well feel that it should be enforced. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Anybody else in the audience for or against? I'm going to go ahead and read into the record. We have 2 emails. Let's see here. I've got one from Todd Angel. Hello, Mrs. Phillips. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend hearing regarding the variance of this property. Therefore, I would like all interested parties to know that I am opposed to this. He said opposite to this request, but opposed to this request. Although I do not see the proposed garage, our neighborhood is subdivided in such a way as to provide privacy. A major reason we purchased our home at 2210 South Peninsula Drive, so because of the lot sizes and location of neighbors. Allowing a variance for one owner is a very slippery slope for the balance of the local owners. Regards, Todd Angel. In addition, this is an email from a Tom Baldwin. Oh, sorry. Oh, that's yours. Okay. Yeah.
Below.
Here we go. Mark Holt, yeah. I am the owner of 2208 South Peninsula Drive, Daytona Beach, Florida. It is my understanding that the residents of 6 Elizabeth Lane is seeking a variance for the placement of a new garage. Concern of the neighborhood is that this is already a rather high-density area, and the addition of another structure closer to the lot lines will negatively impact the aesthetics of the neighborhood as well as the property values. Thank you very much for your full consideration during the evaluation period. Respectfully, Mark Palazzo. That's all we have, correct, Ms. Groom? Nothing else? Ms. Groom? Nothing else? No other letters, no other
Correct.
voicemails? Okay, good.
Correct.
Okay. What do you have there?
Those two were for the previous.
Oh, yeah.
I think those were those the previous? Yes, those were.
Those were the
for Mr.
previous.
Bet, when Mr. Betts was in here, yes. Okay, good. Yeah, this is a tough one. Any other questions before we entertain a motion in this case from the board? Thoughts, concerns? No? Okay. Can I get a motion?
Yes, I hear move that we do not allow for the variance.
Let's do a motion to approve the case as presented.
Okay.
Okay. And then we'll get a roll call vote. Go ahead, Mr. Connors. Make a motion to approve the case as applied.
Okay, make a motion to approve the case as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Barhu. Ms. Groom.
So just to be clear for the board members, this is a motion to approve the variance, not to reject the variance.
Oh, to approve it.
So if you want to approve it, it's a yes. If you want to disapprove it, it's a no.
If we don't approve it, wouldn't we just not make a motion? Or?
No, because you want something conclusive. And that's why it's better to state motions in the positive, because if you disagreed as to the reasons why you wanted to reject it, what have you done in terms of final action? It's just
Correct.
better to state a motion in the positive.
So we all understand that? To approve is a
I do.
yes, to decline is a no. Ms. Groom.
Ms. Fuller?
No. Sorry.
Mr. George?
No.
Ms. Barr?
One second. Yes.
Connor?
No.
No. I'm sorry, the motion
Sorry,
has
it's nothing
not been approved.
personal to you.
Yeah,
It's personal to me, though.
sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
What did he say?
I didn't hear him.
Okay. Case D, can I get a reading, please?
BOA 2021-009, variance from Article 4, Section 47C. Request by Thomas A. and Linda T. Future property owners for a variance from Article 4 Development Standards, Section 47C of the Land Development Code, reduce the required rear yard setback from 25 feet to allow for an approximately 1,092 square foot addition to the rear of the existing structure. Property is located at 928 Sickler. Zoning on the property is redeveloped Midtown Residential Preservation, RDM6, and future land use on the property is level 2 residential.
All right. Who's going to speak for this case? If you would, state your, state, excellent. Address, please.
My name is Thomas Huger. My address is 928 Sycamore Street, Daytona Beach, Florida.
Tell us about your hardship.
Unfortunately, when we built the house back in '85, we did not take into consideration the setbacks. We're asking for your consideration to waive, well, not waive, but to allow us to encroach on the zone setback by 10 feet. We want, the home today is a refuge. Every time you turn on the radio or TV, pick up newspaper, this is just 3 articles from yesterday talking about COVID and all the variants. We want to put I have an 85-year-old mother-in-law that has moved from New Jersey here. I have a 16-year-old son that is very, very active, and we've outgrown the house that we have now. Need to add a couple of bedrooms, couple of bathrooms, and a recreational area for us to spend more time, to spend as much time as we're spending in the house now, because we very rarely go out, and we're trying to make the home a more pleasant place to be and not be as crowded as we are. That's where we are at this point in time.
Okay. So I was out at your house.
Sir?
I was out at your house.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit on the back of the house. You already have a block wall with maybe a screen room?
That's correct.
Okay, is this part of the,
No, sir, that's already been permitted. That's going to be enclosed also.
okay, so that's part of your enclosure here, is that room is going to be converted?
Yes.
Okay, good. I also noticed you had some very old trusses laying out there.
And they will go to the dump.
I was just curious. Okay, all right. What about the shed in the very back of the property?
Yes, that was permitted, and that's all the stuff that was on the back porch that we've now moved into the shed.
Is that going to stay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
I spoke to my neighbor who will be directly affected.
Yeah.
He asked, what does he need to do? He does not object. He's in favor of it. We'll be 15 feet away with another fence. We're going to replace the wooden fence with PVC fence.
Okay, nice.
So we'll be separated.
How big is your house now?
It's 2,400 square feet with a garage.
And you're talking about going to 3,500 square feet?
Thereabouts, yes, sir. And it's still well within the 35% lot coverage.
Okay.
So this is your personal home, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I wanted to say it's like the nicest, that you and the neighbor have the nicest houses in the neighborhood.
Well, thank you.
Very nice. And I did notice that almost every house on that street had some sort of, it looked like it was very close to the property line. Some were the side, some were the back. At least one person had the same type of accessory structure, like right on the back.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I was in there when I was looking at it.
and you have a very large lot, and
Yes.
you know, the front setback is back, you know.
Yes,
is the
required to be
large one.
we have to be 15 with 38 feet off the road.
Yeah.
So basically, what I can gather from the sketches here, you're going out to the north. to the
No,
north.
sir, to the west. Well, yes, it is to the north.
Yeah, it's to the
That's
north.
correct, the north and the west.
Yeah, because as soon as I start hearing rear sight back, I always think you're pushing out towards the back.
Yes,
You're
yeah.
actually pushing out.
It's a continuation of the ranch
Yeah, because you
style.
already have your screen porch out there, which is already sticking out 16 feet. Now, you are going to go 10 more feet
Right.
that direction. And you're going to leave, the screen porch is going to stay at 16 feet deep. Then you've got a little additional area there, and then you're going to, on your proposal, you're going to go 10 feet towards the back of the yard in the proposed living area section.
That's correct.
That's the idea.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I got a handle on it. Anybody from the board? Questions, concerns?
How much of a hardship would it be if you didn't get that 10 feet extra? You're going out, I guess it looks like to the south quite a bit.
Actually, to the west, yes, sir.
West. Yes.
West, okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud. Never mind.
And you said your hardship is that you have a 80-some-year-old mother-in-law that just moved in?
85,
Okay,
and everybody in the house is deathly afraid of COVID,
yes,
the variants. We
Right.
spend a lot of time in the house, most of the time.
okay.
I had the same question you did. Was there a reason that you decided 26 feet out? Was there, when you were talking to the engineer or whoever's going to be doing this work for you?
And that square footage would allow us to get the recreational area that we like to have. We presently have a treadmill, a stationary bike, and a weight station. They're all in boxes in the garage.
Okay.
Because we don't have space put them in.
So you're not working out right now, is what you're saying?
Well, not as much as we should be, that's correct.
Okay, good. Okay, so this area back here, you're going to have as an exercise room?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you wanted some additional space. Okay, I see what you're doing. Okay. Good, thank you.
Sir, the area that, there's an area proposed 10 foot by 16 feet. Is that also part of the new construction?
The 10 feet by 16. Oh,
Yeah,
Between the
yes.
screen porch
That
and,
is already permitted. That is a part of the Supreme Court project.
you're enclosing that, though?
That's correct.
That's going to be under air conditioning?
No, not
Oh,
10
no.
by 16.
Oh,
Okay.
because right now you have a 36 by 16-foot screen porch.
Right.
And then somebody had drawn some little lines here, but you're saying proposed 10 by 16.
Yes,
That's,
that's basically a patio. That's going to be a screened area.
is it going to have a roof?
Yes, it will have.
Okay. So you're going bigger,
Consistent.
you're going bigger on your screen room?
Yes, sir.
And then you got all the living space off to the north of the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you got it. Okay. All right, any other questions or thoughts from the board? Anybody in the audience to speak for or against? You can go ahead and sit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion in case D, please?
Motion to approve.
I second it.
Ms. Groom, roll call, please.
Ms. Fuller?
Yes.
George?
No.
Barhu?
Yes,
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Chairman Marshall?
Yes. That's an approval? That's an approval. You are approved. Good luck with your project.
you're welcome. Stay safe. Out there.
Ms. Groom, can I get a review of the cases, please? Case A,
Bill A 2021-0, approved 5-0. 2021-007 was approved 5-0. 2021-008 failed with the one positive vote, 4 negatives. And 2021-009 passed 4-1.
4-1, good. Okay. Do we have any new business? Did we not need to elect a vice chair?
We do need to do that, and I would also like to let you know that I've spoken with Mr. Gentle. He says that he is going to be resigning due to health issues. I've asked him to give me a written resignation. I'm still waiting on that,
Okay.
so we'll need to fill that slot also.
How exciting. Okay. I'm sorry he's not doing well.
I know. Is he okay?
Okay. Can we vote on a vice chair? Or does that need to be part of our agenda? Mr. Gross?
If the board by consensus wants to do it, you can do it, Mr. Chair.
Is there anybody that would like to be the vice chair? Wow,
Not me. Not yet, not yet.
Do I get to move over?
you do. You do. You do.
Go for it.
I mean, you're gonna lose some of your real
can
estate.
do it.
You got a pretty good size.
I love my corner lot over here.
Yeah, don't try to dash out of the meetings too fast. Would you be willing?
I would be willing, but I'm not. If someone
You're
else
always
wants to
here.
do
You're
it,
really
I'm
good.
not.
Well, you're really good about being here.
No.
You've been on the board a while, and yeah, I would love,
You can do it.
you can do it. Come on.
I'll do it, but if somebody else wants to do it, I'm not gonna
Anybody
fight
else?
you out back for
Anybody
it,
else
you
have,
know?
anybody have any ambitions? No? Okay.
No.
All right. All right, then I just make a motion?
You would need a motion from somebody else, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion that Miss Sanders Bowler becomes the vice chair? Could somebody make that?
I motion it.
All right,
I'll second.
very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No, I'm just
Congratulations.
kidding. That means you always have to be here, otherwise I have to run.
You know,
the meeting.
No vacations for you,
nervous.
okay?
No vacation.
I was in North Carolina and I threw my back out. I had to be driven back by my wife in the back of my SUV.
Oh, my
in like a
goodness.
makeshift bed because I was like literally in
Oh my
paralysis
God.
on Monday. And I thought, oh, I'm never gonna, I'm,
Then you
Well, you have a
remembered the
bulging
Board of
disc or
Adjustments meeting.
oh, it was terrible. I don't know what all the semi drivers thought when they drove by and they're like, what the heck is this guy doing in the back of his car like this?
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, so that's why I was thinking, I thought, oh man, we need a vice chair. All right, do we have any other new business?
Mr. Chair, just to let you know, that ordinance to revise the Board of Adjustment quorum would have gone on second reading, but the advertising that's required for ordinances was screwed up by the News Journal. So that's going to have to go back next meeting.
Yeah, September 8th, it will go.
Okay, all right, no problem. Okay, good. Anybody else?
I just have a quick comment.
Yes.
I don't know at what point, like, the application, the parts of the application come to you guys, but sometimes we're starting to get more applications. And so sometimes, like, the part, you guys fill in the, each of the requirements, you know what I mean? The supplemental
The staff
information,
report.
but so does the applicant. I would love if you could encourage them to complete that more, because sometimes we get these yeses, yes, yes, yes. Like, it's not up to us to make their argument for them. And so I feel like, I wanted to say it, but in the future, I'm going to be less in favor of, approving something like that, because if they can't convince me,
That there's a hardship?
we have to make sure the requirements, like, we have a lot of duties, but we don't have to make the argument. So if they're not passionate about it, I don't see why we should be. And so I don't know if it's possible, or if it's already come to you by that point.
We do have a pre-application meeting before they submit that I go over everything with them. I can encourage them to do better with that.
Just as a fair warning,
But just to be clear, the department would not have the authority to prohibit an application that's
Oh,
being
of course
completed,
not.
no matter how poorly.
Oh, of course not.
From being,
Of course
from being
not.
brought forward. It would just be, like you said, on the applicant's side of the ledger to explain why that wasn't
Yeah.
completed better.
Yeah, and I think if you're working with them, just say, look, I'm just gonna let you know that the board, the more hardship you can prove,
Right.
the more they might be likely to approve this. If you're having a tough time justifying your hardship, they're gonna have a tough time justifying it as well, type of deal.
I also, Missy sent out an email that, as I read it, is there an application, not an application, but a app that you guys
Oh, yeah, what
are
was that?
working with
Yeah,
that?
that's a good question.
No, okay.
No, I finished, I'm not sure what
It
you're
was like to
asking.
join
You had
a
like a
group.
group, you had like a group thing, if you click on this.
I was trying to create just
Oh,
a
okay.
Board of Adjustments email, so
Okay.
that I could click
Okay.
that button. I didn't realize you guys got sent.
Yeah, we all got it.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like,
that's,
do I click
you know,
it or
Missy,
is
I
it a
thought you wanted me in a
button?
chat room or something. I was like, hey, whoa, whoa, whoa.
I did not know that. I apologize. I was just trying to create a mailing list. And
Oh.
how that happened.
All right,
I
no problem.
apologize.
Not a problem. Not a problem. All right, good. All right. I get a motion to just, oh, go ahead, Mr. Cole.
No, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay,
I second it.
all right, we are adjourned.
Okay, there we go. We clear.